right. Looks like our live video is starting. We are now live. All right. I love when it jumps up and it pops up. We are now live. Well, hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I'm looking up here today. We're flipping it up a little bit, switching it around so you can see. Got the pictures in the back. Got our chief stuff going on down here. Hey, I know it was a game. It was a good game. Good game. But Chiefs should have pulled it out. They didn't. We're going to adjust that down just a little bit. And that's a little loud on me. Let me check my speakers before we get going. Today's going to be a little bit more casual. Um, you know, I it's our 10th episode, number one. Today's our 10th week in a row of doing this. So thank you, everybody, for your continued support. Thank you for being here to join us week over week over week, which is awesome. So you keep coming back, which to me means you're still getting stuff out of this. So I'm going to keep doing it because, again, I've been doing this for 20 some odd years. And for me, at this point in my life, it's just about giving back to folks, making sure that people who do need it have the support that they need, the resources that they need, the tools that they need in order to better themselves. That's why I do what I do, and that's why I'm here sharing this with you today. So today, I do want to talk about culture. And if you see the post when it comes up afterwards, you're gonna see where it talks about how culture's kind of like an upside down chocolate fountain. I don't really know if that makes sense or not. I was trying to think of some type of a device that would be an inverted pyramid that could push water or fluid back up. If you know of something, let me know. Shoot it. Put it in the comments. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I wanted to talk about culture. I want to talk about leadership. I want to talk about the responsibilities that every leader should have when it comes to their culture, their people, the folks that they work with, because honestly, we forget sometimes that the folks that we work with, we are truly responsible for. And I think that leaders have a tendency to forget that more and more. Now, don't get me wrong, we are making a big shift, but one of the things we'll discuss today is how we've created this culture within corporate America to where when we find somebody that is doing very well at their job, we'll go in, we'll take that person and we'll promote them. And when we do promote them, the one thing that we don't do is we don't teach them how to lead other people. Instead, we promote them and say, hey, look, you did very well at this. We want you to continue to drive these other folks. We want you to make them better. We want you to make them succeed. Get in there, teach them how to do it, teach them what to do, and make the best team, the best department, and the best business possible so that we can flourish as a company, right? But nobody actually sits down. I'd say nobody. A lot of folks, a lot of companies, more and more are falling away from teaching our superstars. If you're going to pluck your superstar and you're going to take that kind of production off of your floor, if you're going to do that, then you need to make sure that you are supplying those folks with the necessary leadership skills to get jobs done. I mean, if you're not doing that, then good grief, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting those other folks up for failure. The people that you've plucked and put into leadership positions, they're going to be failures because they don't know how to communicate the tools that they have and the skills that they have. They don't know how to communicate that into training in order to help those around them become better. So is it always a good idea to promote folks who are your A players? Not always. It really depends. I've seen people that have been promoted up into positions simply because they were A players that really didn't want to be promoted up, but took the job anyway because they said, oh, you'll have a better base. It'll be more secure. You got a potential for this, that, and the other more. But they never took care of that intermediary training. Now, when I worked at Bridgepoint Education, excuse me, when I worked at Bridgepoint Education, Bridgepoint did a phenomenal job of leadership education. And I can remember being in Denver, Colorado, where we had built, I think it was 2,000, an employee call center of 2,000 people out there in this massive building in like a year or so. It was crazy. But we had built this call center up for our admissions and our financial services department in the middle of downtown Denver. And we built it up so big, so fast that they had to make sure that obviously we had some good leadership training. And again, Bridgepoint was very good, whether it was Ashford University, University of the Rockies, of going out, finding people like your Tommy Spaldings to come in and talk to us and teach us about leadership. And at one point in Denver, they actually sent us over to work with the folks over at the Four Seasons. And the folks at the Four Seasons just did a phenomenal job of coaching us on culture and on environment. And I saw a Simon Sinek video a little bit earlier this morning that reminded me of this. And Simon Sinek was talking about how he was speaking to an employee over at the Four Seasons, and it was just a coffee barista. And the coffee barista was just super excited to be there and very friendly, and that energy is contagious. And so Simon says on the video that he turns around and he gave him what he thinks, if he remembers right, was a 100% tip, because the guy was just so happy, and just, again, that's a contagious thing. You love that energy. And so he asked the gentleman, why is it that you love your job so much? And the gentleman goes on to explain that when the managers come by to check in, they come by and they ask, how are you doing? What can I do to help you? What is it that I can assist you with? There's a family environment and a environment of wanting to help others succeed in a positive way that causes that employee to go above and beyond, that causes that employee to go try to reach their greatest potential. Whereas that same employee also told Simon that he worked at Caesar's Palace. And at Caesar's Palace, he was always worried about losing his job. He was always coming in worried about being caught doing something wrong, because the environment that was there, that had been created, was a negative environment. It wasn't something that was allowing him to want to work hard. So when you put yourself in a situation as a leader, whether you're a CEO or you're a manager of entry-level employees, it doesn't matter. You have to understand that your responsibility is to them and their well-being. We have gotten far too comfortable nowadays. And I was having this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday while we were on the first grade field trip to Johnson County Historic Museum. By the way, if you live in Kansas City area, if you live in Overland Park or on the Kansas side, or if you're live in the Missouri side and you just want to learn more about Johnson County, I highly recommend go to the Johnson County Historical Museum over on, I want to say it's like 90th or 89th and Metcalf here in Overland Park. It is awesome. A lot of great artifacts. Wonderful exhibit. It's where the King Louis College West was. So, and of course, then I go ahead and I lose my train of thought. So we were talking about Simon Sinek layoffs. So I was having this conversation with one of the gentlemen yesterday while we were on this field trip. And we were talking about layoffs in general and how more and more companies are having these layoffs. And corporate America has become far too comfortable looking at employees as units and numbers, as opposed to looking at them as individuals with stories, looking at them as individuals and human beings with backgrounds. Now, I've talked about the Dream Manager before in some of my previous sessions that we've had here. And if you haven't seen them, go check them out. That reminds me, if you get the chance, go to YouTube, subscribe. We appreciate it. We've talked about the Dream Manager role in that book, and it's brilliant because it focuses on the people. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I used to be the Axeman. I was the guy. I've been axed by the Axeman. Don't get me wrong. I've been wiped out by the Axeman before. For all of those who remember, all of us who were there at one of those. Well, okay, I won't say which place, but no, we been wiped out by the Axeman. It was, yeah. But I've also been the Axeman, where you have to go in, and when I was younger, I would go in, and that's exactly what I would do. I'd have to go in and I'd look at the books and I'd have to figure out what to do. And sometimes there were layoffs that had to be involved. And so that is the way that the consulting would go. But that's because I was not a good leader at the time, to be quite honest. I mean, I cared about people, but I gave too much credit to the corporation, as opposed to now what I have learned and what I have trained myself to do since then. And I mean, you're talking, this was 15 years ago, I think 12 years ago, that we had all kinds of land, if not longer. No longer, almost 20 years ago. But anyway, so nowadays, what I've learned over the course of the past 10, 12 years is that it is more so now about going in, analyzing a situation, having the individual conversations with the folks that make up the base, the employee base, and then determining what it is that's going to work best for that person, what it is that their personal goals are, where it is that they're missing a connection. What is it that this company can do that's going to make you want to come in every day to work harder? What is it that this company is going to be able to do to help you get to your goal? What are those checkpoints that we need to make sure that we know about in order for you to be successful? And if we start doing that more as a corporate embodiment, as a corporate sector, if we begin to do that more with our employees, then we will find that the attrition rates will decrease. You will find that your employee base will stay. You will find that your trainings will not be for naught, because you're not going to train people and then they're going to leave, because that's exactly what's happening more and more. People get trained, and I know you have the old story where you go, okay, well, the CEO says to the CEO says to the CFO says to the CEO, hey, what happens? We're going to train all these people, and then they leave and we waste all the money. And then the CEO turns around and says to the CFO, yeah, well, what happens if we don't train them and they stay? Well, okay, yeah, well, I'd rather train them and then watch them go. Train them and watch them go, if that's what they choose to do. It's kind of like a scout camp. When we get to the camp, you go through, you make sure everything's clean first, but when you're done, we were always taught you leave it better than when you found it. And that's how it should be for every interaction that we have with people. That's how it should be. Every time you leave somebody, every time they leave you as a leader, they should leave you better than when you found them. And if they don't, then you haven't done your job. I've been on both sides. I've done a poor job as a leader, and I've done a great job as a leader. I know the difference. And I learned my lessons because I've been the guy that's had to axe 30 people in a day, 40 people in a day. I've been one of the people who was let go when 650 people were let go within a course of 24 hours. I've been on both sides. But as opposed to fixing the root problem, corporate America wants to put a Band-Aid on the books and just lay people off. What would it look like if companies adapted and found different positions that people actually fit better into? What would it look like if companies actually took the time to figure out what it is that their employees needed in order to create a safer environment for them to flourish and for them to prosper? What would it look like if we had an upside down chocolate fountain? What would it look like? Whereas opposed to the CEO with the little fountain piece up on top, and it runs over and then it keeps going down and running down and down and down. What if it was the opposite? What if it started down here at its base with the CEO? And at the end of the day, in my humble opinion, the CEO should always be the most tired, because the CEO is the one who's responsible for filling the cups of this leadership team directly above them. And then that leadership team fills the leadership team above them. And then that leadership team, the bigger one above them. And then finally, when you get to the top and that last layer of leadership pushes out to the top of that chocolate fountain, it encompasses everybody that truly deserves, because those are the people that are doing the work that are customer basing, the people all the way up at the top. And while they're a foundation, the foundation and the culture can only be as strong as the CEO, because leadership will resemble the CEO. It just will. So, one of the things that I had mentioned previously, and I want to read this again because it was something that I think really resonates today. for this conversation is a take on true leaders. Um, true leaders take others through a transformational journey, and that journey bonds the person going through the transformation to the leader in a compound relationship. Compound because a true servant leader replenishes the cup with the fulfillment of watching others succeed, while the individual working with the leader continues to stack experience and knowledge on top of itself with every interaction they have with that leader. It's an upside down chocolate fountain. There is a fine balance that has to be discussed as well when we talk about culture, that it can't all just be filling of cups. There's got to be accountability layers in there as well. Because without accountability, obviously, there's not going to be metrics that have to be met. Company needs to grow. People need to not become complacent, continue to grow within the teams. It's about growth. And when people are done growing within your organization, then sometimes it's best for them to move on and begin to grow in another organization. That is fine. No company should have zero attrition, because eventually people will become complacent or stagnant. That becomes toxic. Those toxins have to be released. Otherwise, the culture will be destroyed. There's a balance in business and leadership where you love on your people and you feed your people. As Tina Young used to say, you feed your people. And there's a balance between loving on your people and feeding your people. And I know this sounds rough, but consequence and repercussion. Because there has to be a consequence and a repercussion when certain aspects of business are not met, because there are so many other people that are involved within an organization, and you are only as strong as your weakest link. So I have found many times that in actually caring about others and actually really giving it about somebody as a human being, that the best thing to do, and I've done this before I did this when I was at Ashford quite a few times. If there was somebody who was struggling and just couldn't get it, we'd look at how much sick time they had, and I'd tell them to take their sick time and go find another job. Let's figure out what works best for you. Let's get you out of here and into something that you really enjoy. Because nobody wants to continually be beaten up for something that they don't want to do, and something that they're not good at, or something that's not a passion. They don't want to continually be beaten up for that. That's not okay. You know, that people, and you have to have, nobody should be fired without knowing it. Everybody should know when you walk into a room and you sit down with somebody, if you're about to be let go, you should know walking into that room full well, because you've had so many other conversations and you've been put on so many other performance strategy plans where you can work with your leader. That's what you need to be doing, is working with your people, helping them, figuring out what's going on. Most of the time when people aren't doing well, it's because they're just not happy, or because they don't like it. And if that's the case, help them help you. I know, very Jerry Maguire-ish. Help them help you. Let people be. If they're not meant for that job, help them find one that's better. I mean, you want to talk about leadership. You want to talk about, think about that. When was the last time that you had an employee, and I'm going to throw this out there. When was the last time that as a leader, you had an employee come to you and tell you that they were struggling, they couldn't figure it out, it wasn't working for them, and you sat down with them and you actually tried to help them find another job? Now that's caring about somebody. Wouldn't you want to go work for somebody like that? You help that person go find a better job for themselves. They respect you that much more. And all of a sudden, I mean, the best person they know that could fill their shoes, they'll be the first one to tell. The more you give to people, the more you will get in return. I mean, it's very simple. And in cultures, we have to do more of that. But there is a balance. There is a balance between love, giving love, loving on your people, and consequence. Because the business does have to move. There's so many other people that work at the company that benefit from it as well. Final thought. When we talk about loving on your people, don't become friends with your people. I mean, you've got to have, leadership should have a division in some way, especially when you're working in major companies. And I know that could be harsh to say. I know some people may not agree with me in many ways. You want to care about the people that you work with, but you're not their best friends. And I'm just speaking directly to the people who have other people that they are responsible for. It's like my kids. It's like my kids, and I continually liken business to family, and I'll continue to do that. It's like my kids. I love my kids to death. I would do anything for them. Anything. Besides be their best friend. Because I can't discipline as a best friend. I can't raise them right as a best friend. I'm their father, not their best friend. And my children know that. I have told my children, again, it may sound brutal, my children know that because I find it important that they know that. Just like the people that I work with. Care immensely for the people that I work with because we all provide for each other. But the minute you begin to become best friends, the culture changes. There is no boundary. And all of a sudden, you lose that balance of, hey, we're loving on everybody, and we've got to hold everybody accountable too. So that's my final thought on it. So just remember, at the end of the day, work culture and leadership should be like an upside down chocolate fountain. It's a strategy for servant leadership, the inverted triangle. Look it up, check it out. Or, you know what, I think maybe we'll do a full-blown session on just that. And we'll really break it down and delve into it. So, again, thank you, everybody. Like, subscribe down below. My name's Roger B. I look forward to seeing y'all here again every week. Next week, week after, we'll keep doing it as long as you keep showing up. And I'll probably just keep doing it even if you don't. Be safe. Be blessed, everybody. Have an awesome week. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.